The first level is to draw the aura into the body. Lin Feng did not care if his aptitude was ordinary. He would give it a try first. In the immortal land, there was a strange power called the world spiritual aura. It was actually similar to the chaotic aura, but its power level was slightly lower. Felt very gentle and not as wild. The first level of the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter was to draw the aura into the body. Moreover, as long as one could draw in the Fire-type World Spiritual Aura and convert it into Fire Cloud True Aura, the first level would be considered a success. Lin Feng followed the instructions step by step. He tried to sense the surrounding World Spiritual Aura, but after sitting there for a while, he did not sense anything. If it was really limited by his aptitude was indeed too poor. He could not even sense the World Spiritual Aura. However, Lin Feng was not foolish enough to insist on using the dumb method to sense the World Spiritual Aura. He was a hallowed lord, and a top-notch perfected deity in the chaos. How strong was his mental power? In this world, mental power could still be used normally, and was not affected at all. Hence, Lin Feng mobilized his mental power. As expected, he saw the surrounding World Spiritual Aura. Among them, the Fire-type World Spiritual Aura emitted traces of a scorching aura. It was very easy to identify. It was one of the most abundant types of spiritual aura in the world. Absorb. Lin Feng took a deep breath. In reality, he began to draw aura into his body according to the mnemonic of the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter. With the help of his mental power, this step was naturally abnormally smooth. Moreover, the world spiritual aura induced into his body was simply massive to the extreme. Boom! Lin Feng's body was constantly shaking. In reality, Lin Feng's foundation was his internal universe. Even if his body was destroyed, it would just be reconstructed. It would only take some energy and time. Moreover, even after reconstruction, Lin Feng's body was far stronger than an ordinary body. Hence, the influx of a large amount of world spiritual aura instantly shaped Lin Feng's foundation to be incomparably solid. Ordinary aura cultivators would only draw in a little world spiritual aura when cultivating the first level. However, Lin Feng did not care. A massive amount of world spiritual aura instantly surged into his body, and he did not circulate the mnemonic for the second level. Hence, he could only circulate it according to the mnemonic for the first level. If he absorbed 10 or 100 times more world spiritual aura than others, how strong would his foundation be? Swoosh! Lin Feng opened his eyes. He extended his hand and pointed. A thin beam of light appeared on his fingertip, faintly discernible, like a small flame. This was the Fire Cloud True Aura. It was incomparably explosive, and was one of the very domineering types of true aura. This is the first level of aura cultivation? It doesn't seem that difficult. Didn't they say that even a top genius took half a day to master the first level at the fastest? Lin Feng checked carefully again. Although he was only at the first level now, the Fire Cloud True Aura was incomparably abundant. He could see nothing wrong with it at all. Then let me try the second level. I heard that even a top genius would need at least 7 days to break through to the second level. Lin Feng circulated the mnemonic for the second level again. Immediately, the fire-type world's spiritual aura that filled the air surged towards Lin Feng in a frenzy. Even though Lin Feng could sense that there seemed to be a thick bottleneck in his body, it was instantly broken through by this massive amount of world's spiritual aura. This is the second level? How strange. I feel as if there's infinite power in my body. The level is still very low. This fire cloud true aura seems ready to collapse upon contact, and is countless times inferior to the spirit flame hallowed body back then. However, it has managed to reach the energy level of a chaotic life form. This was also the first time Lin Feng had come into contact with cultivation in this world. After experiencing it carefully, it was really unique. In less than an hour, he had already broken through to the second level of the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter, which was equivalent to the level of a chaotic life form. This speed was simply incredible. It had to be known that even top-notch geniuses needed at least 7 days, and some people with poor aptitude would probably take decades to cultivate to the second level of aura cultivation. As for Lin Feng, he did not even take an hour. If the elders of the Fire Cloud sect learned about this, they would probably be immediately shocked by his talent. Since I still have time, let's see which level I can cultivate to. Lin Feng did not waste any more time, and began to circulate the mnemonic for the Aura Cultivation chapter at full force. In any case, Senior Sister Mu had left behind the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter. It contained all the mnemonics for the first 10 levels. The best location where disciples could live was the mountainside of the Fire Cloud sect. As the current chief disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, Mu Jingjing lived on the mountainside. At this moment, Mu Jingjing was seizing the time to cultivate her qi. She had been an orphan since she was young, and was adopted by the Fire Cloud sect. Since then, 21 years had passed. She had started aura cultivation at the age of 5. Up until now, 16 years had passed. Now, she had also cultivated to the peak of the 9th level of aura cultivation. She was just a step away from entering the 10th level of aura cultivation. Swoosh! Mu Jingjing opened her beautiful eyes. They were filled with discontent. At her age, she could already be considered very talented to have cultivated to the 9th level of aura cultivation. At this point, she would basically have no problem proceeding to foundation establishment in the future. In fact, in some large sects with complete legacies, she would be an absolute core disciple. There was even a chance that she could reach the Golden Core realm in the future, and live a long life. Unfortunately, even though she had become the chief disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, she had to take care of the sect. I'm just a little bit away from entering the 10th level of aura cultivation, but there's still a month before the decennial banquet of light. If we still rank bottom when competing with the disciples of the major sects at the banquet of light, the sect's situation will probably be critical. Mu Jingjing bit her lip. She viewed the Fire Cloud sect as her home. At the decennial banquet of light, disciples of the major sects would compete. The Great Light Temple would even offer some prizes to liven things up. However, it was not a good thing for the Fire Cloud sect. In the past, not only were they ranked at the bottom, even the factions that were not ranked among the 1 temple, 3 divisions, 6 schools, and 9 sects of the Orthodox factions were eager to make an attempt. They sent their disciples to spar with the disciples of the various major factions. Among them, the Fire Cloud sect's battle results were still embarrassing, making them the laughingstock of the Orthodox factions in the world. 10 years ago, Mu Jingjing was only at the 6th level of aura cultivation. It was really difficult for her to achieve anything. This time, Mu Jingjing planned to amaze the world with a single feat, even if she could not shine. She absolutely would not embarrass the Fire Cloud sect. However, her cultivation level at the 9th level of aura cultivation was still a little inferior. Moreover, she was the only disciple in the Fire Cloud sect who could support its reputation. Apart from her, the strongest person was only at the 5th level of aura cultivation. Suddenly, Mu Jingjing felt the surrounding world spiritual aura shake slightly. In particular, the fire-type spiritual aura was swarming towards a certain direction. This fluctuation, has any junior brother or sister broken through? Judging from the fluctuation, they must be at least at the 3rd level of aura cultivation, or even the 5th level. Mu Jingjing sensed for a moment, and was also slightly elated. However, when she thought about how the sect was struggling and how its disciples were declining day by day, she lost interest. So what if someone broke through to the 5th level of aura cultivation? It was still useless at the banquet of light. Just as Mu Jingjing was about to cultivate in seclusion again, another even more violent fluctuation of world spiritual aura came from the foot of the mountain. Again? Someone else broke through? Mu Jingjing was very surprised. 2 of her fellow disciples had actually broken through today. This was very rare in the past. Boom! When the 3rd fluctuation came again, which seemed to be even more intense, Mu Jingjing could no longer remain calm. Who is this? Mu Jingjing's eyes widened as she looked in the direction of the fluctuations of the world's spiritual aura in the distance. If it happened once or twice, it could be considered a coincidence. But it had happened time and again. This was very strange. As for whether they belonged to the same person, Mu Jingjing never considered it at all. That was impossible. How could someone break through time and again in such a short period of time? Even the most gifted person with extraordinary aptitude probably could not do it. Mu Jingjing searched carefully, but could not find any clues. However, this was only a fluctuation at the 5th or 6th level of aura cultivation. In fact, it was nothing much in other sects. Currently, in the Fire Cloud sect, only a disciple at the 9th level of aura cultivation like Mu Jingjing could support the sect. That was why the 5th or 6th level of aura cultivation appeared to be relatively important. Forget it, I'll focus on breaking the bottleneck. I'm just a little bit away. Mu Jingjing gave up searching and focused on cultivating, preparing to break through the bottleneck. After all, the Banquet of Light was in a month, and there could be no mistake. At this moment, Lin Feng, who was at the foot of the mountain, looked relieved. 3rd level of aura cultivation? There doesn't seem to be anything difficult about it. However, there seemed to be a few gazes spying on me just now. They should be investigating. Breaking through 3 times in a row in an hour is indeed a little too eye-catching. That's all for today. I'll continue tomorrow. Lin Feng was a hallowed lord. How could he not know that someone had been searching for the source of the fluctuations in the world's spiritual aura just now? However, with his mental power as a hallowed lord, it would be a piece of cake for him to escape detection. Still, this also told Lin Feng that his performance just now was a little overboard. He had to watch his behavior. The aura cultivation chapter was not too difficult for Lin Feng. However, the huge commotion just now would easily attract people to spy on him. He still had to conceal himself. For example, he should use divine arrays or arrays. Unfortunately, the world was different. Even the rules of operation of the world were different. Some array and divine array runes that Lin Feng had once mastered were all meaningless. However, there were also arrays in this world. Since arrays and divine arrays were no longer of use, he would just learn some more arrays. Hence, Lin Feng headed straight for the Fire Cloud sect's secret technique library. The secret technique library was the core of the Fire Cloud sect. It archived the various cultivation techniques of the Fire Cloud sect, as well as some powerful spells, arrays, alchemy, artifact refinement, and other secret manuals. There was almost everything. Hence, the secret technique library was also guarded by a powerful elder called Elder Yun Zhou. Lin Feng did not know his actual cultivation level, but he estimated that Elder Yun Zhou should be at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm. This was because the life force on his body was not inferior to those peak chaotic life forms in the chaos. However, the aura of death lingered on Elder Yun Zhou's body. It seemed like he was not far from the end of his lifespan. Though Elder Yun Zhou was only a few hundred years old, he probably had a hidden illness. Who is entering the secret technique library? Elder Yun Zhou. I'm a new disciple of the sect. I've specially come to the secret technique library today to choose a spell and a basic array technique. Lin Feng could be considered to have gotten lucky. Originally, this was a benefit that only official disciples enjoyed. However, he was the only one who joined the sect this year, so he automatically became an official disciple. He could obtain a secret manual on spells, basic alchemy, weapon refinement, or arrays for free. Spells on the 1st floor, arrays on the 2nd floor. Make your own choice. You can only memorize them in silence. You are not to copy them or clip them. Violators will be charged with treason. Elder Yun Zhou did not even open his eyes. His tone was also cold. Yes, I understand. Lin Feng could not be bothered either. He went straight to the bookshelf on the 1st floor. There were rows of bookshelves on the 1st floor, densely packed with all kinds of spells. Of course, most of them were fire-type spells. After all, the Fire Cloud sect mainly cultivated fire-type true aura. Lin Feng was an experienced cultivator. He naturally knew that in cultivation, one could not just focus on ascetic cultivation. They also needed defensive abilities. In the immortal land, cultivation level, spells, and artifacts determine strength. Lin Feng did not have any artifacts. Moreover, up until now, Lin Feng rarely relied on artifacts. On the other hand, Lin Feng had to try cultivating spells. Back in the chaos, Lin Feng had come across chaotic spells as well. These spells were similar to chaotic spells. However, Lin Feng did not study chaotic spells too deeply. What he chose were chaotic martial arts. Still, he understood the basic chaotic spells. When choosing spells, one should look at their potential instead of their power. The more profound a spell was, the deeper its potential. This cosmic splitting light and fire rain spell is rather powerful. Even if one only cultivates it to the peak of the foundation establishment realm, it can unleash great power. It's just that it needs to rely on certain artifacts. It's too troublesome. Pass. Fire soul substitution technique. Interesting. Cultivating a kind of natural spirit fire can save one's life at critical moments. TSK. It's just a trick. It's flashy but useless. Pass. The wrath void burning technique manipulates one's wrath. It kills people invisibly and is impossible to guard against. However, the requirements for one's willpower and cultivation level are relatively high. Moreover, when encountering some people with strong willpower, the effect will be greatly reduced. The restrictions are too great. Pass. Lin Feng could sense that Elder Yun Zhou, who had his eyes closed the entire time, had actually been watching Lin Feng's every move. Seeing Lin Feng's expression of disdain for these spells, for a moment, even Elder Yun Zhou's face could not help but twitch slightly. These spells were all the top spells of the Fire Cloud sect, but in Lin Feng's eyes, they were like common trash, insignificant and casually discarded. If he didn't know that Lin Feng was only a fresh disciple, and had probably not even reached the first level of aura cultivation, he would probably have thought that Lin Feng was some golden core perfected person. However, even golden core perfected persons would not disdain these spells so much. These were top-notch spells collected from the orthodox factions by the sect master and elders after rebuilding the Fire Cloud sect. They all used to belong to the Fire Cloud sect. That could not be helped. In the past, when the Fire Cloud sect was conquered by the heretic factions, their sect was all burned down. How could there be any spell books left behind? The elders could only work hard to slowly collect them one by one. Enough! Elder Yun Zhou could no longer tolerate Lin Feng's nonsense. He snorted coldly and said, "Lad, you're so young, and you haven't even reached the entry level of aura cultivation yet. Yet you are already thinking of cultivating powerful spells. You have to know that the cultivation realm is the foundation. Don't put the cart before the horse. Moreover, these spells are already top-notch spells of the sect. Cultivating any of these spells to the peak can unleash great power. Don't bite off more than you can chew." Elder Yun Zhou did not hold back at all. His tone was very stern. However, Lin Feng said rather aggrievedly, "These spells are indeed not to my liking. Elder, if you have any recommendations, please give them generously." Elder Yun Zhou was so angry that he smiled instead and said, "Not to your liking? All right. Tell me, what kind of spell do you want to cultivate?" Lin Feng pondered for a moment and said very seriously, "Are there any spells that are extraordinarily powerful, capable of moving mountains and overturning seas, capturing stars and moons?" No. Then, are there any spells that can kill foundation establishment and golden core cultivators effortlessly? No. Then are there? Enough. No. Nothing of the sort. Elder Yun Zhou was very speechless. Moving mountains and overturning seas, capturing stars and moons, turning the world upside down, even killing foundation establishment cultivators and golden core cultivators effortlessly. How could there be such a spell? Even if it existed, it would be in the Great Light Temple. Moreover, cultivating them would definitely be incomparably demanding. It was almost a fool's dream to cultivate them successfully. The new disciple in front of him was biting off more than he could chew. More importantly, he was wearing a whimsical expression, which infuriated Elder Yun Zhou. "Nothing? Forget it. Tell me about the strongest spell of the Fire Cloud sect. I'll deign to cultivate it." Elder Yun Zhou flicked his sleeve and shouted angrily, "Divine Fire Technique! There are a total of 81 levels. If you can cultivate it to the peak, perhaps you can really kill foundation establishment and golden core cultivators effortlessly. All right, leave after memorizing it." Elder Yun Zhou threw a secret manual in front of Lin Feng. Clearly, he was completely disappointed in Lin Feng. He turned around and left. Divine Fire Technique? Lin Feng did not pay much mind to Elder Yun Zhou's departure. Instead, he was very interested in the divine fire technique recommended by Elder Yun Zhou. Hence, he browsed through the divine fire technique. There were indeed as many as 81 levels. However, this divine fire technique was not some miraculous or arcane technique, but something ordinary, even commonplace. Almost all the orthodox or heretic cultivation factions had a copy. The reason was very simple. It was an experimental spell. It was a spell created by a certain golden core perfected person on a whim. That golden core perfected person conceptualized that the process of cultivating the divine fire technique went from frugality to extravagance. In other words, it was very easy to cultivate in the beginning. One only needed to cultivate a kind of intrinsic divine fire as the core to enter the first level. Basically, all cultivators could do it. The core of the divine fire technique was to allow the divine fire to undergo metamorphosis step by step. The intention was quite good, but that perfected person golden core had forgotten a very crucial factor, and that was time. He might succeed in cultivating the first level in a day. The second level varied from person to person, but even for those with ordinary aptitude, a month was enough. The third level required at least 3 months. The fourth level required 6 months. The fifth level required a year. According to this pattern, the time required for each subsequent level would increase by several times, or even exponentially. How much time would it take to cultivate to the 81st level? At the very least, even a golden core perfected person did not have such a long lifespan. As for the undying and long-lived nascent soul immortals, it was possible for them to cultivate it to the peak. However, how miraculous were the spells of the nascent soul immortals? Why would they need the spell of a mere golden core perfected person? Hence, this divine fire technique was basically useless. Almost no one chose to cultivate it. Some people did not believe it and tried to focus on cultivating it, but no one could cultivate more than the first 30 levels. There were very few people who had even cultivated the first 20 levels. However, Lin Feng was very interested after reading it. The divine fire technique used a kind of divine fire as the core for constant cultivation, allowing the divine fire to undergo metamorphosis. This seemed to be somewhat similar to the spirit flame hallowed body, but was not completely identical. The spirit flame hallowed body cultivated the hallowed body, not the chaotic spirit flames. This divine fire technique was different. It cultivated the divine fire, but not the body. Interesting. The principle is not complicated. It's just that it requires controlling the metamorphosis of the divine fire, which is very troublesome. According to the concept of the divine fire technique, it requires a long time to nurture. This point has practically blocked all the paths ahead. However, what if I use another method that doesn't require nurturing it for a long time, but instead uses other divine fires to promote the metamorphosis of the intrinsic divine fire? Lin Feng also had an idea, but he was a hallowed lord, and his realm was actually not much different from the nascent soul immortals of this world. Hence, his knowledge far exceeded that golden core perfected person who had created the divine fire technique. Therefore, Lin Feng decisively chose this spell. Right on the heels of that, Lin Feng looked up on the arrays in this world. Unlike the arrays in the chaos, the arrays in this world did not have any runes. Every array emphasized adapting to the world and relied on the power of the world. Hence, one had to have a deep comprehension of the heavenly principle in order to be accomplished in arrays. Lin Feng's realm was not bad. As for his comprehension of the heavenly principle, he did not care at all. Perhaps arrays at higher levels still posed some obstacles to him at the moment, but as for some basic arrays, Lin Feng did not encounter any trouble. Soon, Lin Feng chose the divine fire technique and the basics on arrays, and left the secret technique library. After returning to his small courtyard, Lin Feng quickly set up a few arrays near the small courtyard to conceal his aura. Even the fluctuations of the world's spiritual aura could be concealed. This way, Lin Feng could cultivate the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter without worries. Let's see if I can cultivate the Aura Cultivation chapter to the consummate 10th level of Aura Cultivation today. Lin Feng was eager to give it a try. He realized that cultivation in this world also seemed to take a slightly different path, but different paths led to the same destination. He believed that, at the end of cultivation, the outcome would be about the same. With Lin Feng's hallowed lord realm, cultivating the aura cultivation chapter would be a piece of cake. Hence, Lin Feng began to cultivate with all he had. Boom! Once again, the world's spiritual aura grew restless, and a storm brewed. However, due to the concealment of the array, no one noticed the commotion at Lin Feng's place. The 4th level, 5th level, 6th level, 7th level, 8th level. Cultivating the aura cultivation chapter became instinctive to Lin Feng. With his massive mental power, it was as if he was cheating. He extracted a large amount of world's spiritual aura with abandon and infused it into his body. Oh, I think I've reached a bottleneck on the 8th level. When Lin Feng reached the 8th level, he finally paused for a moment. He realized that there was a feeling of fullness in his body, as if it was already difficult to continue past the 8th level. A bottleneck? Or is this the limit of my aptitude? A sharp glint flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. Innate talent. Cultivators in this world were very particular about aptitude. If one's aptitude was not high, there would be a limit. This was the case for many people. No matter how much they cultivated, they could only reach the 5th or 6th level of aura cultivation realm for their entire lives, and could not improve any further. There were also some who could only circle around the aura cultivation realm in their entire lives, and could not build their foundation at all. Of course, aptitude did not completely determine a person's future. Once one reached the foundation establishment stage, the effect of aptitude would slowly decline, because foundation establishment was actually a process of modifying one's aptitude. If one's foundation establishment was solid, their aptitude would instead change. It was the same for the golden core. Condensing a powerful golden core could also allow a cultivator's aptitude to undergo metamorphosis. However, before foundation establishment, aptitude was crucial. For example, now, the limit of Lin Feng's aptitude was the 8th level of aura cultivation. If he cultivated step by step, it might take decades or centuries for him to reach the 8th level of aura cultivation. However, in just 2 days, or to be precise, in just 4 hours, he had reached the bottleneck. Even the foundation establishment elders could not do anything about this bottleneck. The golden core perfected persons might have a way, but the price must be very high. However, Lin Feng was not an ordinary cultivator. He was a hallowed lord from another world. In terms of realm, he was a top-notch perfected deity, not inferior to or even better than the top-notch golden core perfected persons in this world. He was not far from even the nascent soul immortals. Hence, Lin Feng had a solution, and his method was very simple and direct. It could even be considered crude. Bottleneck? Isn't it just that the body can't accommodate more world spiritual aura? At this moment, even if I cultivate, the spiritual aura can't be converted into true aura. Since ordinary methods won't work, I'll be direct. Lin Feng's method was very simple, direct, and even crude. He immediately mobilized his mental power and absorbed a large amount of world spiritual aura. Then, like a huge hand, it poured the world spiritual aura into his body. He was forcibly stuffing the world spiritual aura into his body. It was like a bottle. Although it was already full, Lin Feng ignored it and stuffed it inside forcefully. If one fold of spiritual aura did not work, he would add 10 times. If 10 times did not work, he would add 100 times. Even a golden core perfected person could not use such an easy, direct, and even crude method. After all, in terms of mental power, perhaps only a nascent soul immortal could compare to a hallowed lord like Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body began to expand bit by bit like a balloon. Although most of the infinite world spiritual aura that was forcefully stuffed into his body was lost, there was simply too much world spiritual aura surging in. Hence, it could only be compressed again and again. Finally, it reached a certain limit. Boom! A rumble sounded in Lin Feng's mind, and his body suddenly shook. Then, Lin Feng's body absorbed a large amount of world spiritual aura, like a sponge absorbing water. Just like that, he broke through the bottleneck of aptitude with such an easy, direct, and even crude method. After successfully breaking through the bottleneck, Lin Feng cultivated without any obstacles along the way. Moreover, he seemed to have broken through the bottleneck. Although he had broken through by force, there was a faint change in his body. In addition, with mental power, he could control the amount of world spiritual aura. Hence, it did not take long for him to reach the consummate 10th level of aura cultivation. The 10th level is consummate. Sensing the surging true aura in his body, Lin Feng suddenly had a strange feeling. It was not that he did not know anything about cultivation. On the contrary, he had a good grasp on its general knowledge. As he cultivated the Fire Cloud Aura Cultivation chapter, Lin Feng already understood the approximate level of true aura in the bodies of ordinary disciples. But what about the amount of true aura in Lin Feng's body at this moment? Lin Feng had no concept of comprehension at all. He used his mental power to control the world's spiritual aura by force and inject it violently into his body. Hence, his improvement in terms of level was entirely a process of overflowing. It was only when he had reached complete consummation and could no longer accommodate more that he automatically entered the next level. The amount of true aura Lin Feng had after attaining consummation of the 10th level of aura cultivation was at least 10 times that of other disciples, or even 20 times. This could really be considered a massive amount of true aura. This foundation was almost stronger than any cultivator. However, after attaining consummation at the 10th level, Lin Feng could no longer cultivate because Senior Sister Mu had only given him the Aura Cultivation chapter at the moment, and not the Foundation Establishment chapter. On second thought, it made sense. A new disciple who had just entered the sect would probably take some time even for the first level. As for Foundation Establishment, that was simply a fantasy. Who would have thought that Lin Feng had only taken 2 days to go from the first level of Aura Cultivation to consummation of the 10th level? Moreover, the actual time he used for cultivation was probably only 4 to 6 hours. This was no longer a feat that could be described as ingenious but monstrous. Even the legendary Taoist ancestor, who was born with knowledge, did not cultivate at such a terrifying speed. However, although he could not cultivate it further, Lin Feng could practice spells. Lin Feng still had to study this divine fire technique for a while, and he was also very interested in it. He could not improve his realm without corresponding combat techniques. Hence, he had to study spells thoroughly as soon as possible. Hence, Lin Feng began to focus on studying the famous 81-level spell, the Divine Fire Technique. Buzz. On the mountainside of the Fire Cloud sect, the world's spiritual aura began to stir, and even go wild, vaguely forming an eye of the storm. A large amount of fire-type spiritual aura surged into an abode on the mountainside in a frenzy. Many elders of the Fire Cloud sect who were cultivating in seclusion were jolted awake. That direction. It's Mu Jingjing. That's right. Such a huge commotion. Mu Jingjing is probably about to break through to the consummate 10th level of aura cultivation. The 10th level of aura cultivation. Mu Jingjing is only 21 years old, right? There's hope for her to proceed to Foundation Establishment. It's more than just Foundation Establishment. If our sect's cultivation techniques aren't incomplete, we might even have a chance of seeing a Golden Core cultivator. It's a pity about Mu Jingjing. It's also a great thing for the sect that Mu Jingjing broke through at this time. The Banquet of Light will be held soon. When the time comes, Mu Jingjing will shine and make our Fire Cloud sect proud. The Foundation Establishment elders of the sect were all overjoyed. Mu Jingjing was a disciple they thought highly of, and could be considered the #1 disciple of the Fire Cloud sect. Now that she had finally broken through a level of aura cultivation, she would be able to reach Foundation Establishment soon. To the sect, the significance of having another Foundation Establishment elder was naturally special. Moreover, breaking through just before the Banquet of Light was about to be held was also a huge benefit to the Fire Cloud sect. Not only were the Foundation Establishment elders of the sect alerted, the disciples of the sect also noticed such a huge commotion. All of them looked in Mu Jingjing's direction enviously. Once one reached the 10th level of aura cultivation, they could start establishing their foundation. Once they successfully established their foundation, they could venture even in the entire world. A Foundation Establishment cultivator could be called an expert. Unfortunately, these disciples of the Fire Cloud sect also knew their own limitations. Apart from Mu Jingjing, None of the other disciples had the possibility of reaching foundation establishment. At most, they would be lucky if they could cultivate to the 7th or 8th level of aura cultivation. Lin Feng naturally noticed the change in Mu Jingjing. In the Fire Cloud sect, the only one he had a good impression of was Mu Jingjing. He even thought very highly of Mu Jingjing's potential. At least, she surpassed most of the foundation establishment elders. Unfortunately, her talent was wasted here. In the Fire Cloud sect, if the sect master could not complete the cultivation techniques, she would probably have no hope of attaining the Golden Core realm for the rest of her life. Mu Jingjing has attained consummation of the 10th level of aura cultivation. She should be able to obtain the foundation establishment technique, right? I can start with Mu Jingjing. Perhaps I can obtain the foundation establishment technique in advance. Lin Feng thought about how to obtain the foundation establishment technique from Mu Jingjing. He did not come to the immortal land to cultivate slowly, nor did he intend to stay on the Fire Cloud Mountain indefinitely. What he wanted was the entire immortal land. It was only to avoid alerting the will of the immortal land in advance that he cultivated the techniques of this world, striving to use the power of this world to conceal his unique aspects, so that he could make plans regarding the entire world. What he needed to do was to cultivate to the peak as soon as possible. Even if it could not compare to the power of a hallowed lord in the chaotic world, he needed to reach at least 1/10 of it. Only then could he ensure that he had a place in the entire immortal land. Hence, this Fire Cloud sect was only a temporary stop for Lin Feng. After he had obtained the cultivation technique and cultivated to a certain level, he would leave soon instead of wasting time in the Fire Cloud sect. This foundation establishment technique was naturally crucial to Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng also knew that he had just reached the entry level. The possibility of obtaining the foundation establishment technique was minuscule. He still had to conceal himself carefully. Hiding blindly won't do either. Perhaps I should display some aptitude. Aren't there top-notch geniuses in the immortal land? Perhaps the sect will treat top-notch geniuses differently. Lin Feng considered whether he should display some aptitude. It would be best if it could awe the entire Fire Cloud sect, without making people suspicious. This was tricky. He had to make proper preparations. Lu Qing, you've slacked off in cultivation over the past few days. Not only has your realm not improved, it has declined. As punishment, you are to reflect on your mistakes at the reflection cliff for 3 days. Lu Miao, cultivation is the foundation. You're putting the cart before the horse by pondering over those spells. Qin Yang, you've only reached the 3rd level of aura cultivation in 3 years, but you do have some talent in artifact refinement. Study artifact refinement in the future. As the chief disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, Mu Jingjing was rather responsible. After breaking through for only a few days, she went down the mountain and began to inspect the cultivation of the disciples. However, after inspection, Mu Jingjing was very disappointed. By the way, your name is Lin Feng, right? Although you're a new disciple, it's been 10 days. Have you reached the entry level at the 1st level now? Mu Jingjing swept her gaze and saw Lin Feng sitting in the corner. She still had some impression of Lin Feng. After all, he was the only disciple the Fire Cloud sect had accepted this year. Senior Sister Mu, I was just about to ask you about cultivation. During the past few days of cultivation, I found that there doesn't seem to be anything too difficult. But looking at my senior brothers and sisters, cultivation appears to be difficult. Therefore, I suspect that I've been cultivating incorrectly. Please help me to correct it, Senior Sister Mu. As soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, the entire disciple hall fell silent. Everyone looked at Lin Feng as if he was an idiot. Cultivation was not difficult? Was it possible? Some of them had cultivated for more than 10 years before reaching the 4th or 5th level of aura cultivation. Only a fool would say that cultivation was not difficult. Even Mu Jingjing felt that Lin Feng was playing to the gallery, but she still said, "Which level are you at?" "I think it's the 3rd level." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire hall fell silent for a moment, before bursting into laughter. The 3rd level? Haha, that's really impressive. A disciple who has just entered the sect for 10 days said that he has cultivated to the 3rd level of aura cultivation. Is he an idiot? Back then, it took me a total of 4 years to cultivate to the 3rd level. Even Senior Sister Mu, who is publicly acknowledged as the most talented disciple in our Fire Cloud sect, took a full year to cultivate to the 3rd level. This guy's name is Lin Feng? I heard that he's the only disciple the sect accepted this year. He didn't even pass the sect's assessment, and was directly accepted into the sect. Looks like Senior Sister Mu has misjudged him too. The hall burst into laughter. Even the usually amiable Senior Sister Mu could not sit still at this moment. Her expression was slightly dark. Lin Feng, on the other hand, looked composed. Mu Jingjing suppressed her anger and said in a low voice, "You said you're on the 3rd level. Show me." Lin Feng nodded, then extended his fair hand. With a sizzle, a small flame appeared on his fingertips. Ha! Although it was only a small flame, everyone was slightly stunned. This was the characteristic of the 1st level of aura cultivation. They were all mocking Lin Feng for being delusional. The 3rd level? That was impossible. However, if he had reached the 1st level, that was not bad either. After all, it had only been 10 days. Buzz. After only a moment, Lin Feng's body turned hot like scorching flames. A ball of flames took shape in his palm, emitting a scorching aura. Swoosh. At once, even Mu Jingjing stood up abruptly. This is impossible. The 2nd level. It's actually the 2nd level of aura cultivation. 10 days? Are you sure that Lin Feng has only been in the sect for 10 days? If it's true, this is the top aptitude. According to the records in the sect, the most talented person spent 7 days cultivating to the 2nd level. Although junior brother Lin Feng spent 3 more days, he's definitely among the top geniuses. Such aptitude is incredible, truly incredible. Mu Jingjing stared intently at Lin Feng. Back then, even she had spent a few months cultivating to the 2nd level. As for Lin Feng, he took 10 days, only 10 days or even less. Even during the most glorious period of the entire Fire Cloud sect, someone with such an aptitude would be a top genius. You? Before she could finish speaking, everyone seemed to see a ball of flames suddenly rise. Terrifying Fire Cloud true aura erupted instantly like a volcano. At this moment, even those disciples at the 4th or even 5th level of aura cultivation felt their hearts palpitate and a sense of oppression. The 3rd level. It's really the 3rd level of aura cultivation. Moreover, his foundation is incredibly deep. I've never seen such a deep foundation. 10 days. Did he really cultivate this in 10 days? Could it be that junior brother Lin really has the intrinsic Taoist physique and is a once-in-a-thousand-year genius? Mu Jingjing was also bursting with joy. She was even a little stunned. She could understand if someone could reach the 2nd level of aura cultivation in 10 days. That would be a top genius. However, reaching the 3rd level of aura cultivation in 10 days? What kind of aptitude was this? This was an aptitude that even she did not dare to imagine. Perhaps only someone with the legendary intrinsic Taoist physique could cultivate at such a terrifying speed. Lin Feng, tell me, how did you cultivate? Mu Jingjing grabbed Lin Feng's hand and tried to probe. However, Lin Feng was a hallowed lord. When he concealed his cultivation level, forget about Mu Jingjing, even golden core perfected persons could not tell. He had concealed his true cultivation level. If he told the truth and said that he was already at the 10th level of aura cultivation, wouldn't the entire Fire Cloud sect be scared out of their wits? Too much was as bad as not enough. Hence, revealing the 3rd level of aura cultivation for the time being was enough. So, Lin Feng began to spin a tale with a serious look. I cultivated according to the mnemonic of the aura cultivation chapter Senior Sister Mu gave to me. In the beginning, I felt the rules in my entire body, and I saw infinite fire-type spiritual aura. It was all very interesting and surged into my body with all its might, and I couldn't refuse, so I cultivated to the 3rd level in 10 days. I don't know if something went wrong. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Mu Jingjing could not believe her ears. Fire-type spiritual aura had surged into Lin Feng's body proactively. What kind of phenomenon was this? Disciples like them meditated for a few hours every day and cultivated with all their might, just to attract more world spiritual aura and convert it into true aura? As for Lin Feng, the world spiritual aura took the initiative to burrow into his body, allowing him to reap twice the results with half the effort in cultivation, so he could cultivate countless times faster than them. This was simply unheard of. For a moment, even Mu Jingjing could not remain calm. She had never heard of such a thing. Hence, she immediately informed an elder, the most experienced and knowledgeable imparting elder in the sect. Junior brother Lin Feng, quick, come with me to see the imparting elder. He's experienced and knowledgeable. He must know what's going on. With that, Mu Jingjing pulled Lin Feng towards the cultivation hall without waiting for his response. They left the disciples in the hall exchanging looks with each other. Perhaps, our Fire Cloud sect is about to welcome a Taoist prodigy. Everyone's expression tensed, but they were more excited than anything. In a short period of time, countless streams of light flew into the cultivation hall from all directions. By the time Lin Feng and Mu Jingjing entered, the hall of the cultivation hall was already filled to the brim. There was a dense crowd of people. All of them were kind-looking or sage-like elders. Apart from the imparting elder, there were also the law enforcement elder, the alchemy elder, the artifact refinement elder, and so on. Apart from the elders of the secret technique library and the sect master who was in seclusion, almost all the elders of the sect were here. Heavens! He had reached the 3rd level of aura cultivation in 10 days. Even the Foundation establishment elders were incomparably shocked. Looking at the dense crowd, Lin Feng's heart suddenly palpitated. Was it a little too much? I should have just displayed the 2nd level of aura cultivation. Whether Lin Feng felt that it was too much or not, he had to bite the bullet now. At least he had to get through this. Mu Jingjing, are you serious? He's the one who cultivated to the 3rd level of aura cultivation in 10 days. The imparting elder was an elder at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm. In terms of true cultivation level, he was about the same as the sect master. However, his potential was limited, and he would probably never be able to condense a golden core in this life. That's right, it's junior brother Lin Feng. Hence, Mu Jingjing relayed Lin Feng's tale to the elders in all seriousness. The elders began to check Lin Feng's cultivation level one by one. Naturally, they could only see that Lin Feng was at the 3rd level of aura cultivation. However, this was what was so shocking. Reaching the 3rd level of aura cultivation in 10 days. Just the thought of it was shocking. Moreover, according to Lin Feng's description, the world spiritual aura was voluntarily pouring into his body. What was going on? Among them, an elder said with a trembling voice, I once saw a few words in a secret manual of a golden core perfected person. This is a characteristic that belongs only to the intrinsic Taoist physique. Intrinsic Taoist physique. All the elders were stunned. They stared at Lin Feng with unparalleled fervor, as if Lin Feng was an incomparably precious treasure. The intrinsic Taoist physique. Many elders seemed to be lost in their memories. Elder, what is the intrinsic Taoist physique? Even Mu Jingjing asked humbly. The imparting elder glanced at Mu Jingjing and Lin Feng, then said in a low voice, the intrinsic Taoist physique is almost a myth. The so-called intrinsic Taoist physique is incomparably compatible with cultivation and is favored by the heavenly principle. They encounter almost no bottlenecks in cultivation. Such is the case for Lin Feng. The world spiritual aura was eager to surge into Lin Feng's body. No matter what spell he cultivates, he can grasp it with just one look, and the power of the spell would be extraordinary. Lin Feng, do you feel like you're immersed in flames when you sleep? That's right, that's right. Have you felt an affinity for fire since you were young? That's right, that's right. Is it almost effortless for you to cultivate the aura cultivation chapter? That's right, that's right. No matter what the other party said, Lin Feng nodded. However, he was rather speechless inwardly. Intrinsic Taoist physique? Were these elders blind? He clearly only had ordinary aptitude. However, if they really wanted to label him with an intrinsic Taoist physique, it would also be a halo. It would be the halo of a top genius. No matter what shocking deed he accomplished in the future, no one would suspect him. This was because geniuses were miracles to begin with. The imparting elder grabbed Lin Feng's hands excitedly and said, "Do you see this? This is the intrinsic Taoist physique. No one with an intrinsic Taoist physique has appeared in all of the orthodox factions for 1,000 years. Once the intrinsic Taoist physique appears in any faction, they will be conferred the title of Taoist prodigy. Although Sect Master isn't around, before Sect Master entered seclusion, he had already entrusted the major matters of the sect to us elders. It's a great fortune that a disciple with an intrinsic Taoist physique has appeared in the Fire Cloud sect. I suggest that Lin Feng be conferred the title of Taoist prodigy immediately. What do you think?" The imparting elder's words made the many elders exchange looks with each other. The Taoist prodigy. How could they know anything about the Taoist prodigy? Only in some ancient texts could a few lines on the matter be found. However, the Fire Cloud sect had already declined to such a state. Forget about conferring the title of Taoist prodigy. Even promoting Lin Feng to an elder immediately was not a big deal. I think it's feasible. That's right. The appearance of a Taoist prodigy in our Fire Cloud sect means that we are favored by the heavens. This means that our Fire Cloud sect may be about to prosper. Haha, with the descent of a Taoist prodigy, how can our Fire Cloud sect not prosper? Hence, the title of Taoist prodigy was given to Lin Feng. As for the conferment ceremony, the elders all said that it was just superficial and not worth mentioning. However, why did Lin Feng feel that this title of Taoist prodigy was really a little hasty? Led by the elders, after Lin Feng respectfully paid respects to the ancestral master of the Fire Cloud sect, he officially became the Taoist prodigy of the Fire Cloud sect. In terms of benefits, there were also many. Firstly, all kinds of cultivation resources were prioritized for Lin Feng. Lin Feng could browse through any spells and cultivation techniques in the secret technique library at will. The status of a Taoist prodigy was above that of an elder, only second to the sect master. He was the most distinguished person in the Fire Cloud sect. In particular, Lin Feng, the Taoist prodigy, had appeared when the Fire Cloud sect was at its weakest, and shouldered the heavy responsibility of revitalizing the sect. Lin Feng stayed in front of the group of old fogies for most of the day, and was long tired of them. After being conferred the title of Taoist prodigy, he bade farewell and left. He went to his new residence, an abode at the peak of the mountain. The abode at the peak of the mountain was extremely rich in world spiritual aura. Normally, only elders were qualified to choose an abode among them. However, as the Taoist prodigy, Lin Feng naturally had special privileges. Although there are some twists and turns, becoming a Taoist prodigy is already a very good outcome. It will be much more convenient for me to get things done in the future. Now that I'm the Taoist prodigy, I can obtain the foundation establishment technique in the secret technique library. Is it time for me to attempt foundation establishment? Lin Feng promptly acted upon his idea. He was in the Fire Cloud sect to obtain cultivation techniques. Now that he had become a Taoist prodigy with such privileges, how could he not use them? Hence, Lin Feng went to the secret technique library again. This time, Lin Feng came with the halo of a Taoist prodigy. Even Elder Yunzhou's eyes were about to pop out. He never expected that the disciple in the secret technique library, whom he had viewed as an arrogant brat, would suddenly become the Taoist prodigy of the Fire Cloud sect. Even though he was very shocked, Elder Yunzhou still appeared very calm on the surface. He helped Lin Feng to browse through some foundation establishment techniques, which could also be considered an eye-opener for Lin Feng. However, Elder Yunzhou might never have imagined that Lin Feng could actually begin foundation establishment now. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng thought for a moment. Since he wanted to establish his foundation, he should head to the Fire Cloud Cave. This was the only sanctuary for cultivation in the Fire Cloud sect now. Cultivating in the Fire Cloud Cave could increase one's perception of fire-type spiritual aura, and it was incomparably compatible with the cultivation techniques of the Fire Cloud sect. However, only foundation establishment elders could cultivate in the Fire Cloud Cave. As the Taoist prodigy, Lin Feng naturally had the privilege to enter the Fire Cloud Cave in advance. This is the Fire Cloud Cave? The moment Lin Feng stepped into the Fire Cloud Cave, he immediately felt a scorching aura, like erupting magma. Ordinary disciples probably would not be able to hold out for more than an hour. No wonder only Foundation establishment elders could enter. Ordinary disciples could not cultivate for long inside. However, this environment was indeed very beneficial to cultivating fire-type cultivation techniques. Lin Feng began to recall the Foundation establishment cultivation techniques he had browsed through in the secret technique library. Foundation establishment was actually about reconstructing the foundation. It was equivalent to reconstructing a person. A person's aptitude would be completely different after foundation establishment. Hence, foundation establishment often required external aids. It could use some precious treasures, such as natural materials and resources. However, Lin Feng knew that in any cultivation system, the true foundation lay in oneself. External factors were ultimately external factors. One could rely on external factors for foundation establishment, but that was not the best path. This was also why Lin Feng did not think of ways to plunder some natural treasures of the Fire Cloud sect. I remember a foundation establishment technique mentioning that in ancient times, foundation establishment did not require external aids at all. For example, the two current nascent soul immortals did not seem to have relied on external aids when establishing their foundation. Foundation establishment without relying on external items was actually also possible, but that required an extremely deep foundation. Moreover, the Fire Cloud sect did not have a foundation establishment technique that did not require external items. However, Lin Feng was not an ordinary cultivator. He was a hallowed lord, and his realm was comparable to a nascent soul immortal. The nascent soul immortals here were no different from the chaos. They were all equivalent to incarnations of the will of the heavenly principle, and were themselves a part of the rules. However, this world was too weak. It was not even 1/10 or even 1% of the chaos. Hence, in a real battle, a nascent soul immortal would definitely be far inferior to a chaotic hallowed venerable. However, their realms were actually the same. From a strategic perspective, Lin Feng also had some unique insights into the cultivation system of this world. Since there were no techniques that did not require external aids to establish the foundation, then there was no need for these techniques. In ancient times, when one's foundation reached a certain level, they could naturally establish their foundation. So, if Lin Feng imitated those in the ancient times, didn't he need a strong foundation? Thus, he would use his mental power to sweep up all the spiritual aura in the Fire Cloud cave, practically forming a terrifying vortex that surged into his body in a frenzy. The so-called powerful foundation was actually just the amount of true aura. His true aura was insufficient now, so he would increase his true aura until he reached the foundation establishment realm. This was Lin Feng's most direct, simple, and even crude method. Buzz. A massive vortex of true aura appeared in the Fire Cloud cave. Some foundation establishment elders might know that although the amount of true aura was terrifying, it was nothing much to a foundation establishment elder. Perhaps a foundation establishment elder in the Fire Cloud cave was cultivating. No one suspected Lin Feng at all. No one disturbed him in the Fire Cloud cave. Lin Feng could constantly use his mental power to pour a massive amount of spiritual aura into his body in a frenzy. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. This time, Lin Feng cultivated for a total of 10 hours. It had to be known that from the first level of aura cultivation to consummation of the 10th level, Lin Feng had actually only cultivated for 4 to 6 hours. But now, Lin Feng had spent 10 hours advancing from the 10th level of aura cultivation to the foundation establishment realm, and he was still continuing. A large amount of world spiritual aura squeezed into Lin Feng's body, forcefully injected into his body by Lin Feng's mental power. Hence, the true aura in Lin Feng's body was constantly being compressed. Thankfully, Lin Feng had meticulous control over his body, and his body was extraordinary. Although the spirit flame-hallowed body was shattered by the space-time guard back then, Lin Feng used the power of the universe to reconstruct a body. While it was not as powerful as the spirit flame-hallowed body, its physical strength far exceeded that of the foundation establishment elders in this world. Lin Feng had never seen a golden core perfected person, but even a golden core perfected person probably did not have the strength of Lin Feng's body. Hence, no matter how massive the amount of true aura was, it could not blast apart Lin Feng's body. As a result, Lin Feng forcefully compressed the true aura in his body continuously, and a massive amount of world's spiritual aura surged in. Gradually, even the true aura in his body gradually turned from a gaseous state to traces of mist, vaguely liquefying. True aura that's transforming into mist. This is the characteristic of foundation establishment. Lin Feng was stunned. He was about to reach the foundation establishment realm? It did not seem that difficult. However, on second thought, who was he? He was a hallowed lord in the chaos, second only to the chaotic hallowed venerables. A mere foundation establishment realm was nothing. Again, Lin Feng knew that attaining foundation establishment was imminent, so he increased the speed of taking in world spiritual aura again. Immediately, a storm brewed in the entire fire cloud cave, and a large amount of world spiritual aura surged into Lin Feng's body. Boom! Finally, when all the true aura transformed into mist, Lin Feng's entire body shook. He actually had a feeling that his body had undergone some special change. It was as if his life had sublimated, and it seemed to have become more compatible with this world. Foundation establishment. Lin Feng knew that he had already succeeded in establishing his foundation. Moreover, he had not established his foundation with external aids, but through natural consummation. His foundation could be said to be extremely solid. If cultivators from the outside world learned about this, their eyes would definitely pop out. Apart from in the ancient era, who else could establish their foundation without relying on external items? Lin Feng was the only one. So this is foundation establishment? But it feels a little too weak. Lin Feng frowned. He had already entered this world for some time, and had a relatively clear understanding of it. The cultivation system of this world is divided into aura cultivation, foundation establishment, golden core, and nascent soul. In comparison, in the chaos, there are chaotic lifeforms, chaotic perfected lords, chaotic perfected deities, and chaotic hallowed venerables. There are also 4 realms. According to my previous hypothesis, they should correspond. After all, no matter how weak this world is, it's still a world. However, the energy level and life level of a foundation establishment cultivator seemed to be too weak. Lin Feng frowned. He had a vague feeling that something was amiss. Back when he was in the river of spacetime, he could clearly sense that although this world was weaker than the chaos, it was indeed a world. No matter how weak a world was, it was still a world. The cultivation realm of this world should correspond to the levels of life in the chaos. This was his previous hypothesis. Hence, Lin Feng behaved cautiously. He schemed carefully to enter the fire cloud sect, and cultivated all the way to the foundation establishment realm. However, now that he had reached the foundation establishment realm according to the rules of this world, the current Lin Feng could be considered an expert. Even aptitude was no longer the decisive factor in cultivation. This should be the mainstay of the immortal land. However, Lin Feng sensed that unlike what he had imagined, the power and the level of life of a foundation establishment realm cultivator seemed to be much, much inferior to a chaotic perfected lord, even worlds apart. Lin Feng wondered if the differences stemmed from differences in the rules of the world. I should find a powerful foundation establishment life form to test it out. Lin Feng pondered. Speculation was ultimately just speculation. He had to give it a try personally. However, at this stage, Lin Feng's main focus was cultivation. He would cultivate through the cultivation system of this world to the peak first. Hence, Lin Feng continued to cultivate in the fire cloud cave. He had already successfully established his foundation. Aptitude was no longer important. What was important was whether his foundation was stable. As his foundation establishment became consummate naturally, it allowed Lin Feng's foundation to be incomparably solid. With such a foundation, it would be a piece of cake for him to cultivate the golden core. Lin Feng did not waste any time. He used his mental power directly in the fire cloud cave to devour the world's spiritual aura without restraint, converting it into the true aura in his body to increase his cultivation level. Foundation establishment was not divided into a few levels. There were only the elementary, intermediate, advanced, and consummate stages. Once Lin Feng successfully established his foundation, there would be almost no bottleneck for his powerful foundation. He only needed to accumulate true aura. Of course, even if he just accumulated true aura, a massive amount of true aura was needed. Even in the holy land of cultivation, top geniuses would take decades to reach the consummate stage of the foundation establishment realm. Of course, Lin Feng was different. If the world's spiritual aura in a single fire cloud cave was too little, he would get it from the entire fire cloud sect, and even from an area dozens or hundreds of kilometers in range. Forget about hundreds of kilometers. Lin Feng's mental power could easily plunder even the world's spiritual aura in billions of miles. Even though the commotion was a little shocking, precisely since the commotion was too great, no one knew the source. Then come. Lin Feng closed his eyes. Immediately, his mental power enveloped a radius of hundreds of kilometers. Then he retracted it abruptly. Boom! The massive amount of world spiritual aura seemed to have formed a huge vortex. It was sucked out at once and instantly poured into the fire cloud cave. Early stage foundation establishment, middle stage foundation establishment, late foundation establishment, consummate foundation establishment. Lin Feng's cultivation level rose steadily. The speed was unbelievable. What intrinsic Taoist physique! Even the descendants of the Taoist ancestor probably would not be able to cultivate at such a speed. How long had it taken Lin Feng to advance from the initial stage of foundation establishment to the consummate stage of foundation establishment? He took only 24 hours, which was just one day. Swoosh! Lin Feng slowly opened his eyes. Peak of foundation establishment? It doesn't seem like much either. Lin Feng grew even more suspicious. Was his previous hypothesis wrong? At this moment, the fire cloud cave actually shook violently. There was a faint, violent fluctuation of spiritual aura, accompanied by low roars. Eh? Lin Feng was a little surprised. There was someone else in the fire cloud cave? The fire cloud cave was not that big, but nor was it small. Lin Feng stopped cultivating and slowly walked towards the roars. He had mental power and could explore every corner of the fire cloud cave. Soon, Lin Feng saw rolling magma in the fire cloud cave. That's right, magma. Fiery red magma surged continuously, emitting a terrifyingly scorching aura. The magma emitted fire-type spiritual aura. A volcano? No, it's not a volcano, but earth fire. Only then did Lin Feng realize that there was earth fire in the fire cloud cave. It seemed to be confined by an array. Moreover, the array was rather sophisticated. It must have been set up by golden core perfected persons of the fire cloud sect a long time ago. Moreover, judging from the signs, more than one golden core perfected person had probably set it up. Swoosh! Suddenly, a gigantic head appeared from the scorching magma. It was sinister and terrifying, giving off a terrifying aura. A monster? No, it should be a demon, and a golden core greater demon at that. Lin Feng smacked his head. There were also monsters in this world, but they were called demons. These demons did not belong to the orthodox or heretic factions, but they were very tragic. They were basically enslaved by the orthodox and heretic factions, and were hated by almost everyone. As a result, there were not many greater demons in recent years, but there were many lesser demons. After all, the spiritual aura in this world was very abundant. As long as the plant sprites bathed in world spiritual aura, as time passed, they would naturally develop sentience and become demons. Gore! The golden core greater demon roared. Then it actually spoke in human language. You're the one who woke me? Humph, you've reached the consummate level of foundation establishment. Your foundation is quite solid. Looks like those old fogies from the Fire Cloud sect have another successor. Lin Feng thought for a moment. Was this golden core greater demon mistaken? Were there still any old fellows in the Fire Cloud sect? Could it be that this golden core greater demon still did not know about the situation in the Fire Cloud sect? Lin Feng took a closer look. The dense arrays around the magma vaguely trapped this golden core greater demon. Turned out that this was a sealed demon. It seemed like it was a greater demon sealed by a golden core perfected person while the Fire Cloud sect was prospering. However, what was the use of sealing this greater demon here? What kind of greater demon are you? You sure talk big. Lin Feng appeared very calm. I'm the ancestral fire dragon. I was sealed here by those old fogies from your fire cloud sect 3,000 years ago. Humph, they used me as a laborer to spit out this earth fire every day. This has already become the sanctuary of cultivation for your fire cloud sect. Otherwise, the earth fire in the fire cloud cave would have long been exhausted. Lin Feng pondered. So this was a fire dragon, born with the ability to spit out earth fire. So this was how the fire cloud cave, a sanctuary for cultivation, was created. 100 years ago, the fire cloud sect had encountered a calamity. It seemed like this fire dragon did not know. However, as Lin Feng looked at this fire dragon, he began to develop ideas. He had yet to cultivate the divine fire technique, but he wanted to take another path. He did not need to cultivate step by step, and needed the earth fire. This fire dragon had come at the right time. Fire dragon, are you willing to acknowledge me as your master? Lad, have you lost your mind? You're just a Foundation Establishment junior, and you want an ancestral beast to recognize you as his master. The ancestral fire dragon naturally did not obey. A smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. What if I let you out? Huh? You're willing to let me out? Ha ha. As long as you're willing to let me out. So what if I acknowledge you as my master? The ancestral fire dragon was simply bursting with joy. It never expected Lin Feng to be willing to let it out. Could he be a fool? Moreover, the ancestral fire dragon had also realized that there did not seem to be any aura of a golden core entity in the fire cloud cave. This was even stranger. In the past, the fire cloud cave was always guarded by golden core perfected persons of the fire cloud sect. Of course, Lin Feng knew what the ancestral fire dragon was thinking. However, Lin Feng still needed this fire dragon. So what if he let it out? Break! Lin Feng's massive fire attribute spiritual aura was suddenly swept into the surrounding arrays. Lin Feng had also studied arrays before. With his horizons, his attainments in arrays had long surpassed golden core perfected persons. Hence, these arrays were nothing in front of Lin Feng. Crack! Even ancestral fire dragon could not quite believe it when the arrays shattered. It had thought that Lin Feng had to make proper preparations first. It did not expect the arrays to be broken so quickly. Boom! Once the array was broken, ancestral fire dragon was overjoyed. Its massive body suddenly charged out of the magma. Ha ha ha! I'm finally free again. Those old fogies. This isn't right. Where are those old fogies? The ancestral fire dragon was slightly stunned. Then, it used a mystic technique to check on the entire fire cloud sect. Immediately after, its expression was filled with ecstasy. There's not a single old fogey from the fire cloud sect. Not even a golden core entity. Haha, I was almost fooled by you, lad. I was sealed for 3,000 years, and I've finally regained my freedom. The fire cloud sect has already declined to this extent. Today, I'll avenge my previous humiliation and completely destroy the fire cloud sect. How could ancestral fire dragon not know that the fire cloud sect had already declined? However, Lin Feng remained calm and said indifferently, So, ancestral fire dragon is not prepared to keep his promise? Promise? Promise my ass. I'll swallow you in one gulp. How could ancestral fire dragon abide by its nonsensical promise? The terrifying aura of the golden core greater demon enveloped Lin Feng. It even opened its bloody mouth, intending to swallow Lin Feng in one gulp. Thud. Suddenly, the ancestral fire dragon's vision blurred. At some point, a small giant had appeared in front of Lin Feng, its entire body emitting a strange and powerful aura. That aura even made ancestral fire dragon tremble. Greetings, Father Deity. This was one of the 3,000 demons. Lin Feng looked at the sky. The 3,000 demons were only peak chaotic life forms. The heavenly principle had warned him, but there was not much movement. It seemed like chaotic life forms had yet to reach the limit of tolerance in this world. Since there was no movement from this world, Lin Feng could rest assured. Coincidentally, he could also see how a golden core entity in this world was compared to the 3,000 universe demons in his internal universe. Actually, Lin Feng already had some vague guesses. His previous hypothesis was probably wrong. According to his hypothesis, a golden core entity was comparable to a chaotic perfected deity. But now, just its aura was much inferior. Even if the universe demon was suppressed, its aura was still far stronger than the golden core greater demon in front of him. And the universe demon was only a peak chaotic life form. What kind of monster is this? The ancestral fire dragon was slightly stunned, but its vision blurred. Before it could make any unnecessary movements, it saw the small giant in front of it grab out with a huge hand. An incomparably violent force grabbed its tail directly. Then he smashed it hard into the ground. Boom! The entire fire cloud cave was shaking. The ancestral fire dragon's vision blurred. It was filled with anger. Taste the earth fire I've refined for 3,000 years. The ancestral fire dragon was extremely aggrieved. It was a golden core greater demon. Although it was not at the peak of the golden core realm, it had already reached the intermediate stage of the golden core realm. Moreover, compared to cultivators, greater demons' physical bodies were clearly stronger. But what was happening now? It was actually beaten by a human cultivator. This was intolerable. Hence, the ancestral fire dragon suddenly spat out a mouthful of earth fire. Swoosh! The terrifying temperature wreaked havoc. Immediately, even the universe demon was scorched by the earth fire, but that was all. With the continuous power from the internal universe, the universe demon was almost undying. A minor injury was nothing. Bang, bang, bang. Moreover, this completely angered the universe demon. Hence, the universe demon's body quickly expanded. He pressed ancestral fire dragon to the ground with both hands and punched it again and again, causing ancestral fire dragon's demonic body to begin to collapse. I've lost. Spare me. Spare me. The ancestral fire dragon wailed loudly. It had been imprisoned for 1,000 years to begin with, and had lost most of its strength. Now, even its strongest body was not a match for the universe demon in front of it. What else could it do? Lin Feng looked at the weak ancestral fire dragon on the ground, then waved his hand, motioning the universe demon to stand at the side. The ancestral fire dragon is a golden core greater demon. Although it has lost most of its strength, it still has a golden core body. I didn't expect it to be so weak, but it can at least injure the universe demon. In that case, the golden core of the immortal land is only equivalent to a chaotic life form? Or perhaps it's much inferior to a chaotic life form. After all, the universe demon is still suppressed by the immortal land. Lin Feng felt that something was amiss. Something was very wrong. It was completely different from his previous hypothesis. No matter what, back in the river of spacetime, he had confirmed that he had sensed this world. It was indeed a world, and was at least not fundamentally different from the chaotic world. However, why were the cultivators in this world so weak? The golden core was almost already considered the peak power of this world. Also, where did the ancient Taoist ancestor that this world has always mentioned come from? Where did he go? Since he could preach, his strength definitely cannot be underestimated. Also, those two nascent soul immortals. All kinds of thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. He had almost come into contact with the high-end power of this world now. If it was really so weak, he could try to change his plan. His previous plan had progressed too slowly. That was because he was very wary of this world. But from the looks of it, the golden core was only SOSO. If possible, he could speed up his progress. Lin Feng's eyes darted around and he saw the weakened ancestor fire dragon on the ground. Demons were the most tragic life forms in this world, but there were many of them. Perhaps he could let these demons test the true peak power of this world. He would test the waters of this world. Hence, Lin Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. He said in a low voice, "Ancestral fire dragon, I have a huge opportunity here. Heh, it'll depend on your luck." Lin Feng reached out and grabbed at any time. The ancestral fire dragon did not even have the slightest ability to resist. It instantly disappeared and was transferred into the internal universe. Boom! A bolt from the blue struck. The clear sky turned dark at once. Black clouds pressed down on the city. But in reality, Lin Feng felt immense pressure. The heavenly principle was warning him, and this time it was far more serious than when Lin Feng had transferred an ant into the internal universe the last time. However, no heavenly tribulation or anything of the sort descended in the end. Is the golden core is also within tolerance? Then things will be easier. A cold smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. Ancestral Fire Dragon was transferred directly into Lin Feng's internal universe. Of course, the Ancestral Fire Dragon did not know that it was already deep in an unfamiliar universe. However, the invisible confinement around him prevented it from moving at all. The Ancestral Fire Dragon was terrified now. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure appeared in front of Ancestral Fire Dragon. What exactly are you trying to do? The Ancestral Fire Dragon's voice was trembling. Although it had been sealed for 3,000 years, it did not want to die. Now it felt the threat of death. A strange smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. Then he said with a faint smile, "I'm going to give you a huge opportunity. It depends on whether you can withstand it." What opportunity? The Ancestral Fire Dragon was still a little stunned. But Lin Feng did not say anything else. Instead, he waved his hand. Boom! Endless cosmic power in his body was poured into Ancestral Fire Dragon's body in a frenzy. Arg! The Ancestral Fire Dragon could not help but cry out in pain. His body was blasted apart, but it did not matter. In Lin Feng's internal universe, it was difficult for it to die even if it wanted to. Even if its body exploded, with a thought from Lin Feng, the cosmic power enveloped Ancestral Fire Dragon and restructured its body again. It happened again and again. The golden core in Ancestral Fire Dragon's body was a very miraculous thing. As long as the golden core was intact, even if Ancestral Fire Dragon's body blasted apart, it seemed to be able to hold out for a moment. Moreover, no matter how much cosmic power was infused into its body, as long as the golden core existed, its essence of life would still be that of a golden core greater demon. This was in line with Lin Feng's previous plan. Once, twice, thrice, after Ancestral Fire Dragon's body was restructured 9 times, its body finally appeared again, and the surrounding cosmic power came to a halt. Ancestral Fire Dragon, how do you feel? Lin Feng asked indifferently. This, my body, strength, what powerful strength. It seems to be 10 times, no, 100 times stronger. The Ancestral Fire Dragon was shocked, could not believe it. In the past, although it was also a golden core greater demon, it was only at the intermediate stage of the golden core realm. Could not even resist some golden core perfected persons. After all, the golden core greater demon's strongest aspect was their physical body. Golden core perfected persons also had artifacts, spells, and so on that could suppress it. But what was happening now? The Ancestral Fire Dragon actually felt that its physical body was more durable than any artifact. Almost no power could injure it. All of this was brought to it by this mysterious man in front of him. Senior, I feel very good now. I'm very, very strong. It's as if no one can withstand my power. The Ancestral Fire Dragon did not dare to be impudent in front of Lin Feng anymore. Although Lin Feng looked young, he was able to enhance it to this extent in such a short period of time. The Ancestral Fire Dragon was no fool. It naturally knew that the young man in front of it was not as simple as he appeared. Very good. Remember, from now on, address me as Master. I've enhanced you to such a powerful level, naturally because there are some things I need you to do. Master, what do you need me to do? The Ancestral Fire Dragon asked cautiously. Let's come out first. Lin Feng waved his hand. Immediately, the Ancestral Fire Dragon was moved out of the internal universe. When Ancestral Fire Dragon appeared in the fire cloud cave again, a terrifying pressure seemed to envelop the Ancestral Fire Dragon from the sky. Boom! The Ancestral Fire Dragon's entire body was trembling. It was not Lin Feng. Facing the power of the heavenly principle, it was almost defenseless. After all, in essence, the Ancestral Fire Dragon was still a life form of the immortal land. Its life force had not been changed. Lin Feng stared intently at the sky. Soon, the pressure from the heavenly principle disappeared, and Ancestral Fire Dragon returned to normal. Since the essence of Ancestral Fire Dragon's life has not changed, even if it carries some power outside this world, the heavenly principle would not suppress it. Lin Feng pondered. The ancestral fire dragon was also an experiment for Lin Feng. All the enhancement in the ancestral fire dragon's strength came from the cosmic power in Lin Feng's body. He had actually suffered a loss. When the cosmic power in his body was given to ancestral fire dragon, it was a permanent loss. Once the ancestral fire dragon fell in this world, this power would also become a part of the immortal land. Naturally, the immortal land would be glad to see such a thing happen, so there was not even a warning. The current ancestral fire dragon had already been modified by Lin Feng into a chaotic life form with the power of his internal universe. Moreover, it was a peak chaotic life form. Of course, it was definitely far inferior to the 3,000 universe demons. However, against the golden core greater demons in this world, even a peak golden core greater demon, it should be far stronger. As for those peak golden core perfected persons, due to the difference in spells, artifacts, and so on, they would only know which was stronger after fighting. However, Lin Feng was already very satisfied, and his plan could now be implemented. Fire Dragon, since you're a golden core greater demon, and your strength has been enhanced to the peak of the golden core realm, I'll give you a task first. Find a few golden core greater demons, regardless of whether they are in the early or middle stages, and regardless of whether they're willing to come or not. In short, bring them to the Fire Cloud Cave. Remember, be subtle, and don't let the people from the Fire Cloud sect find out for the time being. Yes, Master. The ancestral fire dragon respected Lin Feng like a deity, and absolutely did not dare to disobey Lin Feng's orders. Since Lin Feng could quickly enhance him to this extent, it would be a piece of cake for him to retrieve this power. Moreover, after accepting the modification of the power from Lin Feng's internal universe, and it was filled with cosmic power, the ancestral fire dragon was genuinely and deeply reverent of Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was the god of creation of the universe. Any power of the universe could actually be considered a part of Lin Feng's own power. Even if it was subconscious, it could still affect ancestral fire dragon, preventing it from developing thoughts of betrayal. The ancestral fire dragon left silently to carry out Lin Feng's orders. Lin Feng, on the other hand, continued to cultivate in the Fire Cloud Cave. After going from the consummate foundation establishment realm to the golden core realm, since the cultivation techniques of the Fire Cloud sect were incomplete, it could no longer provide Lin Feng with cultivation techniques. However, Lin Feng had learned the strengths of many factions, and had asked Ancestral Fire Dragon to describe some characteristics of the Golden Core. Hence, he had long made up his mind. It was just the Golden Core. He would use the same method, and naturally condense a Golden Core. He did not even need a cultivation technique. The greatest characteristic of the Golden Core was the liquefaction of true aura. Currently, Lin Feng's true aura was only in the form of mist. If he wanted to completely liquefy it, there was only one way: constant compression. Relying on his powerful mental power, Lin Feng kept forcefully devouring a large amount of world's spiritual aura. His body was strong enough, and infinite true aura began compressing continuously. In just 3 days, all of Lin Feng's true aura finally transformed from mist to liquid true aura. At the same time, all of the liquid true aura began to spin, forming a huge vortex. Crystallization began to appear in the center of the vortex. Boom! Lin Feng's entire body shook. He felt as if his body had undergone another sublimation. This was a sublimation in the level of life. Huh? Chaotic life form. This should only be at the level of a chaotic life form, right? However, there seems to be a difference. A weakened version of a chaotic life form. Lin Feng looked inwards, and realized that a round and dazzling sphere that seemed to emit infinite life force had appeared in the depths of his body. A golden core. This was a golden core. According to the hierarchy of the immortal land, Lin Feng was now a genuine golden core perfected person. Only by experiencing it personally could one actually know the true level of life. No matter what world it was, the level of life could not be feigned. Lin Feng could clearly feel that the golden core condensed in his body, round and golden. According to the scripture, if a golden core was swallowed, one's fate would be up to himself. It meant that only by condensing the golden core could one control their own fate. There was a sense of freedom. Right now, Lin Feng did have a feeling that the restraints this world had placed on him previously had weakened greatly after condensing the golden core. He even felt more affinity to this world. In terms of the level of life, the golden core entity should be at the level of a chaotic lifeform, but it seemed to be much weaker than a chaotic lifeform. Was it a weakened version of a chaotic lifeform? Could it be that this world is too weak, causing the same chaotic level of life to be much weaker? Lin Feng did not know if it was as he had guessed. Now, he could confirm that golden core entities actually corresponded to chaotic lifeforms. Then, his previous hypothesis was all wrong. The golden core entity was the weaker version of the chaotic lifeform. Then, what about nascent soul immortals? Were they also chaotic lifeforms, or chaotic perfected lords? Or deformed chaotic lifeforms? Lin Feng did not know. After all, the rules of the world were different. However, if his plan was implemented, he would be able to find out the true background of this world. Huh? It's back. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat as he looked out of the fire cloud cave. Swoosh! 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 The ancestral fire dragon flew into the fire cloud cave with several figures. Greetings, master! The ancestral fire dragon knelt respectfully in front of Lin Feng. As time passed, perhaps due to the effect of the cosmic power in Lin Feng's body, the ancestral fire dragon revered Lin Feng even more. These are the golden core greater demons you brought. Lin Feng glanced at the other 9 golden core greater demons. They were all golden core greater demons. You're the master of the fire dragon demon king? I heard from the fire dragon demon king that you were the one who enhanced its strength to the level of a demon king. One of the golden core greater demons asked in a low voice, its tone unruly. Lin Feng also knew that demon kings were the respectful title for peak golden core level demons in this world. In the past, ancestral fire dragon was only a golden core greater demon. Now, Lin Feng had promoted it to the level of a demon king. It clearly shocked the other golden core greater demons. How dare you disrespect master? The ancestral fire dragon's massive body emitted a terrifying aura that immediately enveloped that golden core greater demon. Facing the demon king level ancestral fire dragon, none of these golden core greater demons were its match. Forget it. Lin Feng waved his hand. He did not mind at all. It was commendable that these golden core greater demons could still become free golden core greater demons under the suppression of the orthodox and heretic factions. Why don't you give it a try? Then you'll naturally know. Lin Feng smiled mysteriously. Then, with a wave of his hand, he sent the 9 golden core greater demons into his internal universe. The 9 golden core greater demon could not resist at all. They could only allow Lin Feng to inject the cosmic power into their bodies and completely modify them. Sensing the cosmic power in his body disappear bit by bit and enter the bodies of the 9 golden core greater demons, Lin Feng was expressionless. Even though he had lost some of the cosmic power in his body, this lost power would not be wasted. As long as the plan succeeded, he would obtain the entire world. While modifying them, Lin Feng did not stop. He continued to increase the power of the golden core in his body and increase his cultivation level. He had already condensed the golden core. With his ability, it was only a matter of time before he advanced to the peak of the golden core realm. However, ancestral fire dragon at the side was incomparably shocked. 3 days ago, Lin Feng had just attained consummation of the foundation establishment realm. But now, he was actually already at the golden core realm. This was not the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing was that it actually saw Lin Feng's cultivation level increase at a visible speed. Early stage golden core, middle stage golden core, late stage golden core. To Lin Feng, this speed of improvement was as simple as eating and drinking. However, in the eyes of ancestral fire dragon, it was simply shocking and completely overturned its understanding. Even if the Taoist ancestor was alive, he could not possibly be so terrifying. However, at the thought that Lin Feng possessed such unpredictable and terrifying capability as to directly promote it to the level of a demon king, the ancestral fire dragon also accepted reality. Even the 2 nascent soul immortals probably could not do such a thing. The golden core is consummate. I can't improve anymore. Lin Feng sensed the heavenly principle. This was the operating order of this world. He could sense that this heavenly principle was consummate. In other words, no one could become a nascent soul immortal anymore. But now that he had reached the consummate golden core realm, he could sense the heavenly principle clearly. However, it made Lin Feng very confused. This power of the heavenly principle seemed to be far inferior to the heavenly principle of the entire world he had sensed in the river of spacetime previously. Why is that? Lin Feng was deeply puzzled. But at this moment, the universe in Lin Feng's body shook violently. The 9 golden core greater demons had all been modified to the consummate golden core realm, which was the level of Demon King. Haha! I've become a Demon King. A Demon King. It's really the strength of a Demon King. In fact, it's exceeded that of an ordinary Demon King. Heavens, this should be equivalent to even a Demon King from the ancient era. What powerful strength! Now that the 9 golden core greater demons had all been successfully modified into Demon Kings by Lin Feng, they were also transferred out of the internal universe by Lin Feng. Immediately, the power of the internal universe decreased a little. Master! At this moment, the 9 Demon Kings were no longer unruly. They knew very well that if Lin Feng could easily modify them into Demon Kings, he could also easily retrieve their power. Moreover, the ancestral fire dragon had warned them previously. Otherwise, why would they follow it here? Now, they had obtained this grand opportunity. Lin Feng nodded and said, "That's right. Now that you've all become Demon Kings, I believe no one in the entire demon realm is your match now. I only have one task for you, and that is to unite the entire demon realm as soon as possible. It would be best if you can unite the demon realm before the banquet of light. Do you understand?" Understood. The 10 Demon Kings' hearts skipped a beat. Lin Feng had specially mentioned the banquet of light. They were not fools. They knew that Lin Feng would probably make a big move during this banquet of light. All right, go. After uniting the demon realm, I'll inform you of your next move. Yes, Master. Ancestral Fire Dragon. Stay behind for now. Hence, the other 9 Demon Kings left the Fire Cloud Cave silently. As for the Fire Cloud sect, there was not even a single golden core perfected person. Naturally, they could not discover these Demon Kings. Fire Dragon, I want to cultivate a spell. I need your earth fire. How could Ancestral Fire Dragon dare to refuse? It naturally nodded hurriedly. The spell Lin Feng wanted to cultivate was naturally the Divine Fire technique. This was a famous spell in the entire cultivation world, but no one could cultivate it to the peak. Now, Lin Feng was also prepared to cultivate it. This was because the Banquet of Light was in about 10 days. Lin Feng had to successfully cultivate the spell before the Banquet of Light. At that time, he would give the Banquet of Light a huge surprise. Soon, I'll naturally find out the secrets of this world at the Banquet of Light, Lin Feng muttered softly. Then, he closed his eyes and immersed himself in cultivating the Divine Fire technique.